Jay, welcome to the iDairy podcast. It is really a treat to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Darren. I appreciate you.
Okay, Jay, I've got to know more about your background. You heard a little bit of my introduction. You're really skilled at helping entrepreneurs scale their brands and have a brand new book. But how are you qualified to do this?
Yeah, I like to say uh, proof over posturing. And so my background is a little bit in content. I've been doing content for myself and for others for the past 4 years. There's no MBA degree, there's no decades of experience. But I think that's the joy and that's the beauty of writing online nowadays is you don't have to be the guru, you can be the guide. And I like to think of myself less as the professor preaching to the rest of the class and more as that kid in the back of the class sharing his notes with the rest of the class. And so that's the content I share. It's not how to do something. It's not here's what you should do. It's here's how I've done it, and hopefully it inspires and impacts people around me.
Good. Well, listen, I know you're all about permissionless action. So let's define that first. How do you define permissionless action?
To me, permissionless action is about creating opportunities without waiting for approval from parents, societies, your teachers. And it's about realizing that everything that you see around you, and I'm literally looking around my room nowadays, like everything was created by somebody, somewhere, and that you can shape the things that go on in the world.
It's a good definition. I've just finished your brand new book. Congratulations, by the way. It is called You Can Just Do Things, The Power of Permissionless Action. And actually, the first quote in here is, if you didn't know, but for everyone who has not read this book yet, it's from Steve Jobs. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it, you can influence it, you can build your own things that other people can use. Of all the quotes in this big world, why was that the first quote in your brand new book?
Because it's so true. Steve, I mean, he absolutely nailed that quote. I think what stops most people isn't a lack of skill or a lack of talent or even knowledge at all. It's a lack of belief in oneself. They fear starting and they fear asking, and that's what prevents most people from doing the things that they want to be doing. And so, once you can get over that hump, I think the world opens up and you realize how much there is that you can be doing.
Okay, these are very wise words, and I agree totally with you. But where did this start for you? Where did this mindset shift begin for you? Because that's a very contrarian way of thinking.
I don't think there was ever this one major aha moment, this one like brilliant, like, oh my gosh, now I can see the world in color experience. It was more so little bits of evidence that I gathered along the way. I think for me personally, it started back in fourth grade. So that's when I first started playing basketball. And a lot of my peers started playing basketball in first and second grade. So right off the jump, I was behind and I wasn't as skilled as everyone else. And truthfully, I hated that feeling. I hated feeling inadequate or not as good as the rest of my peers. And so what I would do is I would wrap my basketball with a plastic, just like a grocery bag. And then I would watch YouTube videos of ball handling routines. And for hours in the basement, I would be pounding, I would be dribbling, trying to improve at the craft. And within a year, I actually became a lot better and one of the best ball handlers on my team. And so I think just like that realization that even if you start behind or even if you don't come with like natural talent or ability, you can just do things. And so throughout my now career in marketing and in entrepreneurship, I think I've taken that same mindset and applied it to the crafts that I'm doing now.
Take us back to how you exhibited permissionless action, in particular with at the age of 17. I won't ruin the story. I want to hear it in your own words. But when did you realize that we could take that type of action and break some rules?
So the story begins during COVID, actually. It was the summer of 2020, and everything was shut down. I was in my room. I was playing video games for like 5 hours a day, kind of just rotting away in my room. And I
Rotting
remember
away.
one day I looked in the mirror and I was just disappointed, frankly, in myself. I thought that I could be doing better things. And so that day, I decided I would make a change. And so I Googled, how do you make money online? And that was the start of a ton of different, what I like to call portfolio of failures, because I started a music promotion YouTube channel, I started Instagram theme pages, I started Twitter accounts, I even tried to start a clothing brand, which
Did
did
you?
not go as well. And so I tried so many different things, but none of them really stuck. And I had this realization, hey, maybe like I should work for somebody else, work for an entrepreneur and see if I can learn something from them to apply to my endeavors. Because obviously there's some kind of roadblocker that I'm not being able to overcome. And so at the time, my favorite company was Beehive. It was a newsletter platform. And I looked at their website and I said, hey, like, do they have any internship opportunities? I was 16 years old. I had no experience at all. I was like, maybe I can work for them for free. I looked at their website. Unfortunately, there was no open positions available. And so instead of kind of pouting or being sad, I took it upon myself to cold email the CEO of Beehive, Tyler Denk, and I pitched him 3 ideas that I could help them with over the summer. I said, hey, Tyler, like, I love your product. Here's a little bit about me and what I've been doing. Here's 3 ideas I can help you with over the summer. If you like them, I'll do them for free. I don't even have to talk to anyone on the team. I'll work in my own silo, but I just really want to work for you. And luckily, he loved one of the ideas, and I started working at Beehive.
There's so much love about that story. Your book has a couple of these examples too about emails and how to write them and how to pitch. And for those who are in your car listening, think about all the times that you have wanted to send that email or to work for a company or do that thing, and something just gets in our way. And one of the quotes in your book here, Jay, is what if I fail versus what if I never try? I mean, you have that real difference in what if I fail versus what if I never try. Tell us more about those two questions.
Yeah, those two questions stem from Jeff Bezos's regret minimization framework. So at the time, Jeff was in his mid 30s and he was working at a prestigious Wall Street firm. And he saw this stat that just absolutely blew his mind. The internet was growing at 2,800%, like year over year growth. And he was like, what? That's insane. And so he thought about maybe I should start a company on the internet and kind of capitalize on this wave. He took his boss out to a walk in the park and he told his boss the idea, hey, I want to start an online bookstore selling books through the internet. And his boss said, hey, Jeff, that's actually like a really good idea, but that's a really good idea for someone who doesn't already have a good job. And so Jeff went home, he reflected on it, and he asked himself, when I'm 80 years old, will I regret starting this business or will I regret not starting this business? And that's the regret minimization framework. It's projecting yourself to your deathbed and thinking about which path you'll regret more and then optimizing for the one that has the least regret.
I love that. Love that. And in your book, you talk about your North Star and how to get to your North Star. Why start there? Why is that the foundation for you? Because I think you're really onto something here.
The reason I start with preparation and most importantly, your North Star is because oftentimes the thing that holds people back isn't a lack of motivation, it's a lack of clarity. I mean, how many times have we started a project where we kind of burn out, we kind of fizzle, our passion dies, and it's not because the project itself was bad, it was just because it wasn't really aligned with what we wanted to do. And so identifying your North Star is about understanding what actually lights you up. It's about understanding what you actually want, not what your teachers want for you, not what your parents want for you, not what society wants for you, but what you actually want. People spend more times planning their weekends than they do planning their careers, which is mind boggling to me because why wouldn't you spend a disproportionate amount of time on the things that impact your life the most? And your career is one of them. And so I push everybody to try and define their North Star. What is it that drives them? And obviously, it won't be perfect at the start, but I think it's that act of reflecting, it's that act of being intentional and writing it down that I think so many people are missing.
No, I appreciate the point also about spending more time on that. You're absolutely right. And actually, I realized that point much later in life. I've got a lot of years on you, so the fact that you're dialed in on that is fantastic, and so good for you. Now, in this, there's a couple of concepts here, a lot of concepts that are fantastic. One is reverse engineer the greats, and in here you reference one of my favorite books, Steal Like an Artist. Jay, in success leaves clues. In other words, take a look around at what some of the really great people do and watch and learn. The way you write about it is learning is theft. which that's a really a positive way, everybody, of looking at this. So tell us more about learning is theft and how to reverse engineer the greats.
I think you absolutely nailed it. Success leaves clues, and the truth is, someone smarter than you has spent years, sometimes even decades, beating their head against the wall to solve the exact problem you're facing. And why would you start from scratch when you can steal that hard-earned knowledge and make it yours? And I think especially nowadays, like you can find information and solutions to your problems everywhere. And I think rather than trying to fail through the mistakes yourself, it would make a lot more sense to compress the timeline by learning from those ahead of you. And so in the book, I talk about this idea of the monkey research method that I think Austin Kleon talks about as well, which is finding someone who is living the life you want or has the business you want or has the career that you want, and then reverse engineering the actions they took to get there. And then as a level two, identifying the people who inspired that person and climbing the tree like a monkey, climbing the tree of inspiration to get to the original sources and learn from them.
That's good. You bring up the example of Kobe Bryant and how Kobe stole a lot of Michael Jordan's moves. And I love the way you storytell that. Now, I'm a Jordan guy. That's my generation. And your book is filled with those types of stories, but I had no idea. Are you a Kobe guy or Jordan guy?
Well, I'm a Jordan guy only because I grew up watching the old tapes of Jordan with my dad, and so I've always admired his game. Although I have to say, I admire Kobe's mindset and his relentless pursuit in learning and realizing that I think there's like a little anecdote he said when he got drafted, he saw like everyone else who got drafted, their work ethic just immediately deplete because they thought they made it, right? They got into the NBA. And he's like, no wonder Mike won so many championships. It's like taking candy from a baby. These guys don't have it.
Great. Well, I've never met your dad, but I think I like your dad. He had you watching Michael Jordan. That's fantastic. That's so good. I love it. Hey, Jay, one thing that I need to talk to you about, and that is the fact that so many people listening to this podcast, and I think podcasts in general, this type of a podcast, I mean, they are, if you ask them, they have a lot of passion for what they do. They're really interested in their own self development. But give me your advice here about when does turn into what some would call more of a negative, almost like an obsession. I mean, they are honed in on their craft and they're yeah, they're really obsessed with it. What's your view on this? Good thing, bad thing? How do we know?
I would say obsession often gets a bad rap. People think that it's there's a negative connotation to obsession, but the truth is obsession is the only thing that will separate you from everyone else who is just as talented and just as hardworking as you. It's that obsession that leads you to pay attention to the details. It's that obsession that makes you wake up earlier. It makes you stay up later to keep working. Obsession, honestly, in the age of the internet, especially when anyone and everyone can start something and do that with passion, it's the people who are obsessed with it that will outlast and outendure everybody else. There's a quote from Tim Grover, who actually was Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's basketball trainer, that I love. He says, interested people watch obsessed people change the world. And I think it's just so true.
Boy, I like that. I'm going to get that on a t-shirt. I've never heard that quote before. I like that one a lot. All right. So someone's listening and they're saying, okay, I get it. There's things in my life that I'm passionate about, maybe obsessed about, but how do I know? How do I uncover my obsession if that's such a good thing?
Yeah, in the book, I talk about three tests that you can use to identify your obsession, or at least get a better understanding of something that you're genuinely interested in. And so the first test is the P test. Pay attention to what you get so absorbed in that you forget to take care of basic needs, like peeing.
I like
Uh,
that.
the next time you lose track of time, ask yourself, what was I doing? Why did it pull me in so deeply? And gosh, I've definitely been there. I'm so consumed in like writing and I just forget to use the bathroom or to drink water. So that's the first test.
Right. I'm with you. Okay. What's next?
The second test is the midnight test. What keeps you awake at night, not out of stress, but out of excitement? What would you willingly sacrifice sleep for, even if no one else noticed or cared? A lot of people in college will stay up late because there's a deadline for a homework assignment or they have a test the next day. But like, what would you stay up working on, even if like no one cared or there was no deadline? That often is a great signal for what you're actually interested in. And the third test is the boredom test. What do you find fascinating that others find boring? It's oftentimes the activities we enjoy that others find tedious that hold the clues to our unique strengths and interests. And an example of that would be I write a weekly newsletter every Sunday. I document the things I'm thinking about, the things I'm learning. And my brother, he's like, he doesn't understand it at all. He's like, why would you give yourself a weekly homework assignment, a weekly essay to do? But to me, it's a no-brainer. I love to write and I love to share the things that I'm curious about.
Okay, could I convince you of that though? This weekly newsletter, that's a lot of work. I mean, seriously, you mentioned it, but why are you doing that? You don't need to do that, or do you?
You see, that's the thing. That's the thing. The things that are that make you obsessed is it's the things that you can't not do. And for the people who are obsessed, I think for the ambitious few, they'll resonate with this. The work is the win. The hunt is the feast. The act of writing the newsletter is the reward. There's no external validation or money metric that I'm chasing. It's the act of writing the newsletter that gives me so much enjoyment and pleasure.
Talk about one of the chapters in your book called Work in Public. And you give an example of a podcast in there or writing, like you were just saying. This podcast, I have to tell you, I'm obsessed with the podcast. A team of wild horses could not prevent me from doing this podcast every week. I can't explain to you why. I can, but I'm just saying nothing will stop me. I need to do this. And do I make money at the podcast, Jay? No, I don't, but I need to do it. And I think you can understand that, can't you?
100%.
Yeah. All right. So now tell me the work in public. What does that refer to as far as now we're shifting this mode of creation? We've talked about the foundation here, but where does this work in public fit in? Why is that so important?
The reason I believe working in public is so important is because it is manufacturing your own momentum. It is telling people what you're doing and giving them a reason to follow along. The truth is people follow people on missions. And so the more you talk about what you're doing, and more importantly, the more you show what you're doing and show that you're making an effort, the more people root for you, especially when you're early on in your journey. And so rather than trying to, in the book, I talk about the two methods of creating opportunities. There's inbound marketing and there's outbound marketing. Outbound marketing is a lot of what the book is about. It's the cold emails, it's the pitch decks, it's the reaching out to people via cold DM, but it's the inbound marketing that is actually more important. It's the time where people start coming to you based on the things that you've been showing. And so working in public is by far the number one recommendation I'd have for anyone trying to start a project or accelerate their careers. How can you showcase and document your thinking and your learning in public?
You talk about that in the book. I mean, in other words, if you are creating something, whether it's you're writing a book, show the behind the scenes type. Yeah, behind the scenes. If you're doing a podcast, show what that process looks like. People love that creative process and how you are mastering your craft, but you're doing it right in front of them. And what's the psychological trigger, and why is that so important for people to see? Why does that work?
Yeah, people love people who are doing things. I think there's a common piece of advice, which is if you want someone to mentor you, take their advice. So many people ask for advice and then do nothing with it. And that doesn't make that mentor want to give you more advice. And so when you do things in public, when you show that you're ambitious, that you show that you're driven, that you show you want more, it invites all kinds of people to root for you, people who are watching you from above that you have no idea who are watching. And so just by process of being in public and being willing to put yourself out there, so many good things happen from that.
Everyone, the name of the book is You Can Just Do Things. A couple of the questions here, Jay. You refer to, I mean, a great concept of go where the action is. In fact, there's a quote that I can't stop thinking about. If you want to catch a wave, you need to be in the ocean, which is such a simple way of looking at it. But give us more evidence about go where the action is. Why is that such an important principle to really embrace and to do?
Yeah, in the book, I talk about Taylor Swift. And when she was 14 years old, she dreamed of being a country musician, but she didn't grow up in the center of country music in Nashville. She grew up in Pennsylvania, where not many country artists played at all. And so she knew that if she wanted to become a country singer, she had to go where the action is. She had to go where the producers and the labels were. And so she eventually convinced her parents to move to Nashville. And at the age of 15, she signed her first record deal. And that just goes to show, Taylor did improve at her music, but not by that much. It was more so the opportunities that started to come. And there's this equation I talk about in the book: skills times visibility equals opportunities. And so if you have a level 100 skills, but level 0 visibility, you're going to have 0 opportunities. And so, you can be the most talented person in the world, but if no one knows you exist, it doesn't matter. And so go where the action is about putting yourself in the right place and fighting for those opportunities. And I
Good.
know some people may say, like, hey, I can't change locations geographically. I'm stuck. Maybe I'm living with my parents, or maybe I have a family. Maybe I can't move to Nashville. Maybe I can't move to New York or wherever the hub is. And the recommendation there is that you can find those communities online. And I think that's the beauty of the internet. You can find pockets of people who are interested in the same thing, people on Twitter, people on Instagram, and reach out to them and connect there.
That's one of the big points I got from your book and just talking to you is that there's never been a better time in world history to do some of the things you're talking about. I mean, this is the time. Unlike previous generations, we can do anything. We're stuck in our own paradigm, and I have correctly connected the dot here, haven't I, Jay?
100%. The internet has not just lowered the barrier of entry, it has completely demolished it. And so, at a time where anyone can do anything, the greatest skill is not a skill, it is the skill of realizing that you can just do things.
So good. All right. One last point on Taylor Swift. You write in the book, I think one of the big ideas in the book that I gained and I really enjoyed, you talked about how Taylor Swift had more than ambition, she had clarity. And that was an aha for me. And how do you define that clarity? Why was that so important for Taylor Swift, and what can we learn from that?
Yeah. So many people, and people I know personally, they're ambitious. They know they want something more out of life, but they just don't know what it is. And the problem with that is you can't hit a target that you don't see. And so I think what Taylor did really well is she defined her North Star. She wanted to be a country musician. And then she reverse engineered the greats. Here are country singers that I look up to. And where were they? Oh, they were all in Nashville. And then she took those actions to make that a reality. And so that's what clarity is about. It's not about, you know, I'm ambitious. I want stuff out of life. It's actually doing the work to then set yourself up for those results.
Yeah, that is so good. And for everyone again listening, you're listening because I think you have some pretty big goals in your life and you are ambitious. What if you were to take that ambition and give it even more focus and direction? And that's one of the big ahas that I'm getting from this conversation here with Jay. So I would just ask everyone just to assess where you are, and starting from the very beginning on that North Star could be the best thing that you could do in order to give yourself a little bit more traction here. So Jay, you can just do things. Who is this book for? Why did you write it in the first place?
The soundbite answer is this book is for anybody who feels stuck in life, who knows they're meant for more, who is driven and ambitious and energized, but just doesn't quite know where to place that energy. And more importantly, doesn't know how to get over that hump of starting. But the truthful answer is I wrote this book for my brother. He is my same age, we're twin brothers, and I've just seen him be so talented and so intelligent, but there's some mental blockers there. There's some fears, the fear of starting, the fear of asking, the fear of wanting more. And so this book was honestly a calling to him, a message to him to tell him that the world is so much bigger than what he currently believes, and that he can indeed just do things.
Okay, I didn't see that answer coming. I did not see that answer coming at all. Now, tell me about your brother. I mean, you guys are close, and does he know that the book is for him? Apparently, right?
Yeah, his name is Max. I've dedicated the book to him because we are incredibly close. In the dedication, I say, to Max, thank you for keeping my feet on the ground while my head was up in the clouds. Because, while I'm off here dreaming and writing books and doing all these things, he keeps me grounded. He reminds me of who I am and what I set out to do. And so, in many ways, just like in chess, there's the bishop and the knight, there's no stronger twin. We're just both different pieces. But I want to tell him that he is so much more than what he's giving himself credit for. And so, you can just do things is that message to him.
Okay, that's beautiful, Jay. And for everyone listening, we all have someone in our life that we're thinking of right now that whether it's you, but also a lot of loved ones who are in that same type of camp. And I can't recommend this book enough. It's phenomenal. Whether you are that young professional and you're thinking about, you want to really accelerate things, or you're stuck in that 9 to 5. I mean, I'm in my 50s, and reading this book was just incredible. One of the things I loved about it was at the very end, you have these 20 high agency questions to ask yourself. So these are really thought provoking. If you're into book study or journaling, and in the morning having a cup of coffee and asking these questions one by one, it's really going to bring up some different ways of thinking for yourself. So it is just fantastic. So Jay, what would you want someone to think or do differently as a result of reading this book?
If I had to pinpoint the number one action that I would want someone to take away from this book, honestly, it'd be define your North Star. I think so many people kind of float through life like a jellyfish at the mercy of the current. So, step one of changing the trajectory of your life is first defining where you want to go. I think there's a scene in Alice in Wonderland where Alice is stuck between two paths, and she looks up to the Cheshire Cat and she goes, which path should I take? And the cat replies, well, where do you want to go? And she goes, well, I don't know. And he says, then either way will take you there. And so it's just like that idea that if you don't know where you want to go, you're not going to end up where you want to be. And so being intentional about defining your North Star. What do you want in life? What do you not want in life? Practically, like, what do you want out of your career? Like, do you want to work remote? Do you want to work in person? Do you want to work with many people? Do you want to work by yourself? Do you want to work at a desk? Do you want to work with your hands? Do you want to work outside? And there's just so many things that people don't intentionally think about that I want to encourage people to reflect on.
It's good. It's a practical guide to do just that. Hey Jay, you were doing so many things. What is the best way to follow you and to really get involved with more of what you're up to?
The best way to keep in touch is to subscribe to my weekly newsletter. It's jyanginspires.beehive.com. And Darren, I'll definitely share the links with you. But yeah, that's the best way. Even if Instagram crashes and disappears tomorrow, I think the newsletter will still be there.
That's awesome. Jay, at the end of every episode, I ask my guests, what is your I Dare You challenge for all of us? It is the one thing that we should do or try to live a better life. So, Jay Yang, the floor is yours. What's your I Dare You challenge for us?
I dare you to try the handle. So many people walk past unlocked doors assuming they're locked, so they never try the handle. So, Darren, I dare you to try the handle. And listeners, I dare you. What is one thing in your life that you've assumed the door was locked when really the door was unlocked? Maybe you're afraid to cold email someone because you assume they're busy. Or maybe you're afraid to ask for a promotion because you assume you'll get shot down. Or maybe you're afraid to ask that girl out in the gym because you're assuming she'll say no. And it's like, I think so many people will achieve so many great things when they realize that most of the doors they're afraid of trying are unlocked.
Now, that is a fantastic I Dare You challenge. Thank you for that, Jay. And thank you for being on this podcast. And everyone, the name of the book is You Can Just Do Things, The Power of Permissionless Action. Jay, your perspective, so refreshing. And thanks for spending so much time with us here today.
Thanks for having me on, Darren.